Hey friends, Kim Ferrara here with you again today. Today is our second video in our Back to Basics series, and today we're going to be talking about purity and how important purity is. So this is it's a very complex topic, and I'm going to try and keep it under the 5 minutes as I've promised. I'm going to do my best to do that, and I'm going to really try and use language that's easy for everyone to understand, because it can get very complex and kind of crazy. So let's see, I've got notes because I want to make sure that I tell you the right information, as accurate as I can, in my understanding. All right, so the essential oil industry kind of is notorious for what's called adulteration, and that's really anything that is being added to a bottle of oil if it's not 100% pure essential oil. Now, it's very easy, and there's a lot of incentive for adulteration to happen, right? If you have a kilo of something and you can make that kilo into 10 kilos and present that as something that's real and pure, there's a lot of money to be made there, right? And that's what's happening a lot of times. So here in the United States, it's different in other countries, but here in the United States, the FDA says that an essential oil company can label their bottles 100% pure essential oil as long as they have 10% of that oil in the bottle. So what is that other 90%, right? We don't know. So, if you don't know what's in a bottle and you are breathing it, you're putting it on your skin, you're putting it in your body, you really are putting you and your loved ones at risk. It's that simple. Now, the essential oil industry, so let's talk about the supply chain and what that looks like for most companies. So you've got the farmer. Actually, I guess I should go this way, right? So you've got the farmer. They then take all of their raw materials to a distiller, and then that distiller sells that essential oil. Oh, I've got a loud vehicle, sorry. So that distiller, and oftentimes that distiller will do some of their own testing, and we'll talk about testing. So that distiller then sells that essential oil to a broker, an in-country broker, right? Because a lot of oils come from other places in the world. Wherever that plant naturally grows is typically where that oil comes from. So there's an in-country broker. And then there is typically it's a US broker, because most essential oil companies rather are here in the United States. So there's a US broker. And then from that US broker, then it finally goes to the company that's selling that oil, and then finally to the consumer. Now, there can be an untold number of brokers in that supply chain. That's the most condensed version of a supply chain for most companies. Now, doTERRA, so I represent doTERRA, and I think if you're in this group, that I represent doTERRA. I am a wellness advocate for them. And so let's talk about the supply chain that doTERRA does. So there's the farmer, there's the distiller, there's doTERRA, there's third-party testing, and then finally the consumer. That short. We've cut out every single middleman. There's absolutely no middleman. There's no brokers. We are dealing directly with the distillers. Now, what happens then is that we can really make sure that the quality of that oil is is 100% real and pure, and that it's going to be effective, right? When you buy something, when you buy an oil, typically it's because well, it's not typically, you want that oil to work. You want it to do something for you. As with anything that you buy, any medication that you buy, even the food that you eat, right? You want it to taste a certain way, and you want it to do something for your body. And essential oils are no different. You're buying them because you want them to do something for you, and you want them to do that consistently. So, let me make sure that my notes here. And when we are working directly with farmers and distillers, we can ensure that they're being paid fairly. They're doing the hard work. Let's make sure that they're being paid fairly for that hard work. Now, what happens with these third-party brokers, they're really cheating the people who are doing the hard work. They're paying pennies for that oil that they're getting from the supplier, from the distiller, and then they're altering that oil and making a ton of money in the process. The people who are doing the hard work, they're the ones who should be paid well for it, right? When you go to work, you want to make sure that you're paid well. Somebody who comes in and wants to do your work half-assed and be paid more than you, that's not fair, right? And so it's not fair in this industry either. So let's talk about a couple of the ways, the main ways. There's like six main ways that essential oils are adulterated. So one is that they're completely mislabeled. So a bottle might say that it's 100% 100% pure lavender oil. Now, lavender has a sister oil called lavandin. Now, lavandin is much cheaper than lavender. So a lot of times what's happening is there's that 5% of lavender, and the rest of it is lavandin. Same thing with cassia. Cassia is like a sister oil of cinnamon, much cheaper than cinnamon. So there's 5% of cinnamon, and the rest of what's in that bottle is cassia. So you're still getting 100% real oil, but you're paying a premium price for something that's being mislabeled. And cassia will do different things than cinnamon, and lavandin will do different things than lavender. So again, you're not getting that consistency that you're looking for. Another way that oils are being adulterated is just simply a carrier oil, whether that's fractionated coconut, or in most cases it's castor oil. Castor oil is being added, so you got 5% of an oil, and 10% of an oil, and the rest of it is castor oil. Still falls under the FDA guidelines that that they can label it as 100% pure. So again, paying a lot of money for a very small amount of what you think you're buying. Let's see. Another way, so adding synthetic versions, and this happens a lot in the perfume industry, but it carries over into essential oils quite a bit. So there are natural chemical constituents in every oil. Excuse me. Some oils, there's hundreds. Some oils, there's thousands of different. Oh, I am noticing the time. We're already almost 10 minutes. I'm so sorry. But this is really important stuff. So there are natural chemical constituents in every oil. And a lot of times those chemical constituents are being made synthetically and being sold to you as pure oil. I don't know about you, but I'm trying to eliminate my the toxins in my life. I'm trying to reduce my toxic load. So I don't want to bring synthetic things into my wellness. And I certainly do not want to pay a premium price for something that's synthetic. Let's see. So then there's also adding synthetic fragrance to enhance the smell of an oil. And then there's really complex adulteration, where they are doing more than just one of those things in that list, right? So they might be extending an oil with a carrier oil, and then also selling something as like cinnamon as cassia, cassia as cinnamon. Anyway, so there's bottom line is there's lots of adulterating happening, and that's very common in this industry. Very, very common. There was a test done recently by an independent lab that tested, I can look it up and tell you the actual number of essential oil companies, but I think it was around 50 different oil companies, and there were like 3 companies that the oils weren't adulterated in some way. doTERRA was one, and then the other 2 were very small boutique companies. One of them actually is going out is declaring bankruptcy. So there's so much of it happening, and I think I truly believe that most essential oil companies are they're not intentionally selling adulterated oils. There are quite a few essential oil companies on the market who offer you testing. Like, you can look at their testing, and that report is called a GCMS. And I'm gonna butcher the name. It's like gas spectrometry, mass spectrometry, something like that is the full name of that test. But for like real language, that everybody understands, it's a GCMS report, and a lot of companies will supply that to you. Now, that test is oftentimes coming from the distiller. Again, and in that supply chain, coming from that distiller, it's a pure oil, but you don't know what's happening at all the steps along the way before it actually gets to you. So unfortunately, that test doesn't mean a whole, or that report doesn't mean a whole lot. Of course, there's a street sweeper happening right now in the middle of my video. Okay, well, now, if essential oil companies are having their oils tested, now, not all labs are created equal, and not all machines are created equal. Now, a GCMS test is only as good as the library that lab has. Again, that test is only as good as vast as the library that company, that lab has. So holy cow, I'm getting myself all worked up. And then something else to know is that, really, of course, the street sweeper is backing up and going again, and backing up and going again. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to edit this video and like cut some of this stuff out. Anyway, a GCMS test will only look at the volatile chemicals. It will not look at carrier oils. It just doesn't see them. So if there are carrier oils present, and that's the main way that oils are being adulterated, is that there's a carrier oil that's being added to them. And so if on the test, it's going to look perfect because it's only looking at those volatile chemicals, you know, the actual essential oil constituents. It does not see the carrier oil. It just doesn't. So testing is super important. You've got to have really specialized machines. You've got to have chemists who do this for a living, who's done this for a very long time. You know, they live and they breathe this kind of work in order to kind of see the adulteration when it happens, you know, on the reports. Now, I'm just looking over my notes here to make sure that I've told you all the things that I wanted to tell you. doTERRA, what we do is there's a third-party company that we use, a third-party testing company that we trust, and it's called APRC. Now, they have over 30,000 pure oil profiles in their library. So, just a moment ago, when I said that a GCMS report is only as good as the library that they have, the company that we use, again, has 30,000 pure oil profiles in their library. So when something is adulterated, they catch it. They have 4 chemists that review every single test to make sure that nothing slips by. And they look for over 1,000 components in every test that they do. They've got very advanced machinery. They actually built one machine for one test. They actually built their own machine because there wasn't one in the marketplace that was advanced enough to detect some of this adulteration that's happening. Like it's so advanced. Like it's hard to really express the severity of it in a now almost 20-minute video that's much longer than I intended. So you've got to do your research. You've got to, if you're considering buying essential oils, you really have to look at the company. You have to look at their supply. You've got to look at the testing that they're offering to you, and who's doing that testing. It's almost, you've got to use your intuition. You've got to use your gut. You've got to look at every single piece of the puzzle, and there's a lot of pieces. And I'll be honest, when we first started using essential oils, we started with a different company, but I wasn't getting the consistent results that I was looking for. One time I might have it, and the next time I might not. And so at the end of my 12-month membership, I canceled that membership, and I'm so thankful that I found doTERRA. And it was just kind of on a whim. I'm like, well, you know, let's try them and see what happens. But I'm so thankful that I did. And every single time that one of the founders speak, whenever they publish results, like I get emotional actually, because they're a company who does the right thing every single time. There was a product recently that's a regular product. It's called the Zendocrine Complex. It's been out for a long time because they couldn't get a pure supply of one of the components of that capsule. And the amount that purity level was off was extremely small. I think just about any other company would have said, it's close enough. But doTERRA, the standard that they've set, they will not compromise. So there's a couple different reasons. A, because they've got super high integrity. B, because they want to make sure that you have that consistent result that you're looking for every single time. And the third reason is the direction that doTERRA is going. What their goal is in the upcoming years is to really disrupt what we know is our current healthcare system, and really have an integrated approach to medicine. And the only way for that to happen is the very first thing is you've got to have a consistent, pure product every single time. And then you've got to do some trials and some tests, and then you've got to partner with some really good organizations. Last year they announced a partnership with Huntsman's Cancer Institute. This year they announced a partnership with St. Elizabeth's Healthcare. And in all of those partnerships, it's going to snowball, right? They're going to start partnering with some really high class, some really amazing institutions to start an integrative process where oils can be used in place of some prescriptions, right? The ultimate goal is to reduce our dependence on pharmaceuticals, right? That's one of their main goals. If you think about it, 100 years ago, it really only has been about 100 years since what we think of as modern medicine has been in place. Before that, what did we use? We used plant medicine, right? People knew that if they took a peppermint leaf and maybe chewed on it or made it into a tea or whatever, that it would help settle their stomach. They didn't go to the store and buy Pepto-Bismol or any of those other products. They used nature, plant-based medicine. And that's what we need to get back to. The amount of toxins that we are putting into our bodies is astounding. It's no wonder that we are all having so many autoimmune diseases. And well, that's a whole nother video. I'm already at like almost 24 minutes here, so I need to wrap up. But the essential oil industry is notorious for kind of being corrupt. And that's hard to say when, as like, that's my job, right? I sell essential oils. That's my job. And to say that I'm part of a corrupt industry is really hard. But doTERRA, and that's the only company that I will ever align with in this industry, is doing the right thing. And often it's the hard thing. I mean, it's easy to make an essential oil, but it's hard to make an essential oil that's pure and that's effective and potent and works every single time. So the next time you buy an oil, you've really got to do your research. You've got to do your due diligence. Well, I'm gonna cut your time not in half. It'll. So doTERRA is the only. It's the only way to go. And there are a million other things that doTERRA does for reasons why to choose doTERRA, and that'll be in a separate video. But know that this industry, it's notorious for being flawed. There's a lot of money to be made in adulterating oils. So doTERRA is the only way to go, in my opinion. And I think that if you do any research at all, you'll find that same thing for yourself. All right, friends, well, tomorrow's video will probably be why doTERRA, why to choose doTERRA as your essential oil company. Besides the purity standpoint, because now we're 26 minutes onto harping about purity. All right, friends, I think that's long enough. Bye-bye. We'll see you next time.